Now, one of the things we hear from the previous guests that work in the hardware or they work in heavy equipment or whatever the case may be, when they talk about automation, they always talk about, hey, this is new frontier. We are building things today that don't exist to do things, to accomplish tasks that have never been accomplished before in an automated fashion, smarter technologies. What are some of the top things you hear your trade members talk about the most? What are they most concerned about? What are they most excited about? I think this is one of the things where these are the people literally inventing the future. So I always think to myself, like, hey, what are their biggest challenges? Because I think based on our guests, we know that everyone wants to automate, but there's always challenges, right? Implementation, skill sets. Are they going to displace too much workforce? What are some of the things that are, I guess, standing in the way or hurdles that the team and the members are trying to overcome right now?
Well, right now, the biggest challenge for companies is to find people. So if it wasn't for the automation, a lot of these companies would be struggling even more than they are. What we're looking at with these technologies right now is how do you apply them in applications that we really hadn't thought of before. I mean, if you look at the history of where robotics and automation was used, it was primarily used in the automotive industry. It used to account for 60 to 70% of the applications in the US went to automotive related companies. It's all changing now because companies are able to take these tools that are, like you said, the innovations are making them much better, and say, hey, what can we do to pick grapes? Or what can we do even in our homes or in a retail environment or in a restaurant? So the applications are emerging well beyond factories. They're coming into closer contact with people, which brings up all sorts of issues related to how do we work collaboratively with the technology? And how as a society do we benefit from these tools so that we're not doing the kinds of jobs we don't want to do, dull, dirty, dangerous jobs. We want better, safer, and higher paying jobs. And those are the kind of jobs that automation is helping enable.
You mentioned that, and I think we saw the latest unemployment report. The numbers are pretty low, yet we also hear about the labor shortages that are currently going on in many industries, and how, for example, like if I were to think about like the fast food industry is a good example of hourly wages. Workers want higher wages. The restaurants themselves are offering higher wages, but still not able to fill that labor demand. Is this the main forcing function that's going to bring automation into these industries? Or was it already happening, but this is just a little bit of acceleration? What do you think? Because I agree with you. There's just less people people have options, right? There's plenty of work. There's just not as many people interested in them anymore.
Yeah, I think that's one of the driving forces right now. A great example I had recently, there's a company that makes a 4-robot system to change tires. So you go into a discount tire to get your tires changed, right? That's backbreaking work. There's not a lot of people who really want to do that 8 hours a day. So this company found funding from Discount Tire, who has a shortage of something like 5,000 technicians. And that's the kind of thing that people are looking at. How would we automate that? Well, this may be one way in that particular application area. That's a job that maybe people really don't want to do for good reason.
So fun story. I was a motorcycle tech. That was my first job out of college. I just liked motorcycles. But someone told me, and then I didn't learn until I got there, it's like the problem with being a tech is you actually do the things you dislike the most, meaning you're going to do oil changes and tire changes. Like you thinking that you're going to soup up bikes. Not that many people come in wanting more performance upgrades on their motorcycle. They're really just want the oil changed, tire changed. And I can tell you on the shop floor, that's pretty much what I did. And you're right. It's hard work, but it also wasn't interesting. You know what I mean? I think most techs want to fix real problems. Like that's not a real problem. They don't feel like that's a real problem. When you think of these areas, what are some of the areas, I think that's killer, right? Like that makes total sense. I'm imagining a NASCAR like pit crew, like me rolling in. This robot lifts up my car. My tires get changed super fast, and I'm out the door probably faster than what a human can do. What are some of the other exciting stories? Because like you mentioned the dangerous jobs. I'm thinking of like I was at a hotel where someone was washing the window outside. I was like, man, that is dangerous. Like that. This guy every day puts that person's life on the line. The whole industry does. And it feels like that should be automated too. Like, could we put some type of Roomba thing going up and down the windows to clean that? I don't know.
Yeah, actually, people have done that. There are robotic systems to clean windows. Construction. There are a lot of applications for robotics in construction. So again, those are kind of oftentimes backbreaking jobs. You can't find a lot of people who want to do them. You can think of just about any industry. Here's one. So I talked about agriculture and picking strawberries, for instance. Well, think about what's happening in the U.S. now. tighter immigration laws. It's hard to find people who want to do that work. And so if you can automate it and use robotics and artificial intelligence, that's a win.
This trade group, the A3 trade group, how do you best see yourself as accelerating this? I guess it's knowledge transfer. Like, how would you best describe what it is you guys are doing? Because I get it. Like, these groups, these people, whoever's in this industry, you need to learn from somebody. You're doing things that no one's done before. So it makes total sense. Where do you see your role in accelerating this knowledge transfer? Or do you see you have a different role?
It's exactly the most important role of the association is to educate companies on how to successfully apply these technologies. Where do you turn to learn? Well, automate.org is our website. We've got all these papers, we've got all these videos, all the companies who make the stuff. So we're the resource for companies who want to get started in automating. And, you asked earlier, what are the drivers of it? The pandemic helped open people's eyes to, if I can't bring people into work, even if I had people, if I can't bring them into work side by side, like in a food processing plant or something, it's not safe to do. How can I keep production up, possibly using robots? So these are the kinds of things that companies are looking at, and they need to know, well, who's doing it already? And that's one of the key roles that we play.
For yourself, how long have you been, I guess, overseeing or been involved with A3?
I've been with the association since 1983, so almost 40 years. And I was actually working in robotics with another organization that our organization broke away from 2 years before that. So I've been involved in this over 40 years now. I've been running it since 15 years now.
You mentioned, obviously, the 2020 pandemic was a big catalyst and driver. What are some other historical events that really have accelerated, I guess, the pace or the desire, the appetite to invest in automation?
Well, I think some of the advances in the technology itself, right? It's become easier to use, less expensive. You have robots now that are safe to work side by side with people. You have mobile robots working in warehouses and distribution centers. So there's been a lot of advances in the technology itself. The machines are getting smarter thanks to artificial intelligence. They can see better thanks to improvements in machine vision. So, that's a really important advance, is that all these technologies are coming together now, making them easier to use. So that's been really critical, I think. And another thing is the competitive global environment that we're in. So when I got started, the US was sort of second in the world to Japan, who had taken the lead, and maybe Western Europe was in there too. But now look what's happened. The biggest user of robotics in the world is China. Now, that's almost mind-boggling when you think about that, because they had unlimited pool of labor, and companies were shifting manufacturing to China because they were chasing low-cost labor. Why is China now the leader in applying robotics technology? It's because they understand that you can't hold on to all that manufacturing if you don't have the best quality and the fastest delivery time and the best productivity. And how do you achieve all that? Through automating. And so they're afraid of other low-cost countries like Vietnam or Malaysia taking away everything that they've earned. And so they want to be out front. They have a national government commitment to becoming the leader not only in robotics use, but also in development of the technologies. Very interesting change is taking place in the world. So companies who are looking at that and trying to compete with players globally are saying, how do we compete? How about automating?
No, I think that makes total sense. I mean, I think we saw the CHIPS Act get passed, where the United States wants to invest in chip manufacturing in the United States. You saw firsthand, as you already mentioned, during the pandemic, supply chains were completely disrupted. Our dependency on other nations to make products for us became a serious problem. Arguably, we're still seeing residual effects. There's still used car shortages because of chips and sensors or whatever products are made internationally. When you see this, I don't even know if to call it commoditization. We'll just call it investment. There's going to be more investment in robotics, automation. I agree with you. Software has certainly made it even better because now the robots can think. And, they can probably do more jobs or more tasks versus, like, I think back in the day, you could probably program a robot to do like one thing. You know what I mean? And now you can program it to think and possibly do multiple tasks. When you see that happening, what do you see it unlocking? Let's just start here in America, because it's one of those things where I think that if this becomes more widely available and the knowledge is clearly transferred and many people understand it, we will see automation come to our shores in many different ways. It's not just us. A lot of countries will start probably bringing their manufacturing back to their shores. What do you see?
Yeah, I think that's true. It will enable more manufacturing to come back either to the US or Canada or Mexico, what so-called nearshoring for us. Other companies will try and do the same. One thing, the first industrial robot was introduced in a factory in 1961, right? Long, long time ago. And yet we're still in the very early days of robotics. We have so much further to go. And again, it's partially because so many industries haven't even thought about automating until recently. In the US, you have all these small and medium-sized companies who are the backbone of manufacturing in the United States, most of whom have never installed even one robot. So there's so much more opportunity for us to become more productive, to bring back more work. I think it's by far, you asked me how long I've been in it, 40 years, by far the most exciting period is right now.
Hey, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to us by Salesforce Platform. Visit salesforce.com/newsletter to discover timely insights and useful tips tailored to your role. Subscribe to this channel and get more great IT and tech interviews with top industry leaders.